Welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Dr. Justin Allen Rose, News Director and Political Analyst at KSWO. And yes, once again, I have back-to-back weeks of uploading For the Record episodes. Again, supposed to be bi-weekly, but this time around, we are essentially doing weekly, at least for right now, because I just got out of another interview. But this time around, it was with Lawton Mayor Stan Booker, and we talked about very important things happening within the city. One was the Kids First initiative, another was the Homeless Action Plan, and talked about the city's use of AI to help develop policy. It was a very interesting interview that I had with Lawton Mayor Stan Booker. This is the second interview I had with him, exactly about 2 years from the date from our very first interview. So I hope you enjoyed this one. Without further ado, enjoy. Mayor Booker, thank you for joining me in the podcast studio. How are you been?
Oh, I'm actually some kind of wonderful, and thank you for having me, by the way.
Oh, no problem at all. I don't know if you remember this, but it's been about 2 years, almost to the dot, that you and I first talked, really in a long form way. It's really the only time we've done so. And one of the things that you mentioned in that first talk that I don't know if it stuck with me, but I remember it for sure, is that you said you wanted to make Lawton the place for families to be.
Yeah.
So let's kind of start there with this conversation, with the Kid First initiative.
Mm-hmm.
How did that come about?
So, really it's kind of developed to what we call the Kids First initiative. And that started about the first of the year, this last year. But prior to that, we adopted as our vision a community of choice where families thrive. And that's our vision. And the idea with your vision is that it drives everything you do. Now, the way we got to Kids First from a community of choice where families thrive, which we still have, is it was probably a week before Christmas. And I had COVID as well as Marianne had COVID.
And this is just last year.
This just in 24. And she had got a text that from a constituent. They'd had a fire call to the house next door. Some homeless had broke in and started a fire. So she said something to me, and I'm like, I remember that house from when we were campaigning. You had a complaint then. They haven't got it taken care of. So through that discussion, I told her, I'm going to show you how to get something taken care of over there. I said, you call the constituent, and you see if they can meet us with a few neighbors in the front yard at 1:30 tomorrow. And so she did that. And so I texted the city manager, I want to see you. And back then we called our Department of Safe and Clean Neighborhoods, we called it Neighborhood Services. And I want to see that director out there at 1:30. We're going to meet with some citizens. And the city manager was going on vacation, so he sent the deputy. That was fine. And we walked along there and we looked at all the violations that were not being addressed on the whole block. We turned the corner, walked down the easement. We're standing looking at 2 yards, and there clearly have children being raised there. Kids play in these backyards. They weren't out there at the moment.
But you can see toys and stuff.
I look over my shoulder. There's the house that had homeless in it. Now, I just received a report from the chief a week earlier that said we had 32 sex offenders that listed their address as homeless. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we could be allowing sex offenders in this house, which would be a violation of the law, right across from these families, places where children are playing. Now, by the way, in addition to the 32, we had 7 that were awaiting prosecution for not registering at all. So from that, we developed the Kids First initiative. We bounce around, you call it Children First, and then you decide, well, the way people talk is they say kids. So we decided Kids First and all that. And the whole point is that every child deserves a safe and clean neighborhood to grow up in. Every kid deserves a safe and clean neighborhood. And not only is it incumbent upon all the adults of the communities, but it's especially incumbent upon the city organization and the elected officials to provide that safe and clean neighborhood. So that's how the Kids First initiative was really born.
So it's an initiative. So is this a policy y'all pass, or is this sort of like a framework like what is True North statement? Is it sort of like the True North statement, which is not embedded
Well,
in there? Go
no,
ahead.
no, it's kind of both.
Okay.
It is like the True North statement, and we did pass the True North statement,
Mhm.
and it is an official policy
Okay.
of the city of Lawton, as is the Kids First Homeless Action Plan. It has been adopted by the council and is an official council policy of the city and drives what we do. Now, we're working on making some upgrades to that. As you know, about a month ago, the council gave me guidance to make some changes to it that involved, not only did they pass a no camping ordinance the same day, they gave me guidance that they would support no funds directed by the city. I need to clarify, we do not spend city funds on homeless. We spend federal funds, but they come to us and we're responsible for where they spent. And we've decided that they will not be spent to expand shelters and that they will only be spent for people that can prove their connection to Lawton, their prior connection to Lawton Fort Sill.
How do you prove that you had a connection? Is it like a family member lives here? Or what is it?
So we haven't got that totally
Okay.
defined yet, and I hope to by the first of the year. I hope to by the 1st of November, but my wife fell and broke her hip, so we
Mm.
kind of been in a flux here. But it will be something like prior school records. Did you go to school here? Can you show that you had a prior address here? Things like that.
Some people might look at not spending funds toward, let's say, shelters as I'm trying to pick my words wisely. I'm just going to say heartless. Let's just say that. I'm not saying you are, but let's just say they might see that as, well, if you're not spending money towards shelters, what about all those people out there in the cold? They're not going to get in the warmth, what have you. What do you say towards that?
So we don't say we won't spend money on shelters. We say we won't expand shelters. Now, the theory behind that is that if you build 1,000-bed shelter, you'll attract more than 1,000 people. Okay. So we don't want to expand that. By the way, AI is the one that gave us that idea. And everybody said, yeah, that makes sense. Captain Brindley at the Salvation Army said, yeah, that makes sense. And even agreed. He's the one that actually put it together like you build 1,000-bed shelter, you're going to attract more. Whatever you're giving away, you will not have enough because you will attract more people, whatever you're doing.
Do our peer cities see the same thing? If they try to expand shelters or they have a certain number of beds, they see more people come in? Like,
I don't know that. We
okay,
have one peer city,
okay,
Norman, that is the only city operated shelter in the state.
okay.
From what I understand, their numbers continue to grow. I don't have valid data points to
Mhm.
say I know for sure, but from what I understand, their numbers continue to grow.
You mentioned this in your first answer a little bit. So you placed the homeless action plan under the Kids First initiative. Explain that connection between homelessness and putting kids first for the audience.
Yeah. So the challenge is we have when our homeless numbers have decreased
Okay.
significantly in past 30 days. Since we stopped camping without written permission on your person, you have to have the permission of the property owner on your person to camp there, or the police can address the issue and remove you. Since we've done that, we've seen a lot of homeless leave to go where we don't know. Let's remember that homelessness, I know I'm not answering your
No, no, you're
question, but
fine.
this
Keep
is
going.
important for everybody to remember. Homelessness is a national problem.
Mhm.
We're not going to solve it in Lawton, Oklahoma. All we've done with what we've tried to do up to a month ago is attract more. I believe that even when it was advertised, we didn't advertise it as a city, but the Salvation Army was, and it was getting out that they had a program where they were bringing people in to this encampment, and you could get in their program, and they would either get you in housing, get you in rehab, or get you home to your family. I believe that advertisement attracted more people. But when we said no camping in the city limits without written permission, we immediately saw people leave. You could tell the difference by the weekend. And so our numbers seemed to be lower. Now ask me the question again.
No, of
I'm
course. So
sorry, I
the
got
connect.
off.
No, you're fine. The connection between homelessness and putting kids first. So why put that homeless
Yeah.
action plan under that umbrella?
So it's like this. There's a lot of crime, and that's spelled out in the homeless action plan. There's a lot of crime involved with the chronic homeless. Not only active crime, prior crime, the criminal
And we
records.
see data with this.
There's data, and you can just ask for general data. If you want to go to artificial intelligence, you can get general data. But we also have to remember we have 32 sex offenders living on the street. That was as of the writing of the policy in December. Okay. How it changes, I don't keep up with it weekly. So clearly there is danger to children. Now, there was one incident that drove a lot of that, and it was spring break last year. And we knew of a homeless guy that was hanging around, kind of behind Burger King on Cash Road, but one of those other buildings. And we could see him laying there, and you'd see it every day, and you thought, man, is that guy okay? So Mariana and I stopped one day, and I got out and I yelled at the guy trying to just see if he was alive. And the smell was terrible. It actually smelled like a dead animal, and no response. So I called for a welfare check. When the police and fire department got there, he got up mad, yelling, obviously had mental issues. It was spring break, kids riding their bikes all around. I told Marianne, I said, oh my gosh, this is a dangerous situation, not with the police here, but I'm going to tell you, when I was a kid, we'd have been tormenting that guy. And we would have put ourselves in danger. Kids do dumb stuff. And they could have put themselves in danger by tormenting the guy or messing with him at all. So also the thing I want you to remember, when you see tents, you have to think, when you're in charge of public safety, you have to think, this is an area that could be unsafe for our children.
You frequently say that the city's role is public safety, with community organizations handled restoring lives. Do you think there could be an overlap there, or could you even elaborate a little bit on that?
So I hope I answer your question.
No, I think you
right.
did. You
know,
really,
our number one job, if you priority, it has to be public safety. Now, we can apply public safety with compassion until we can't. I believe that the police, for the most part, there may be some exceptions, but for the most part, they walk up to a situation attempting to de-escalate. And they show compassion, and they do have compassion for people. I see it when I see our police in action. But there's a point where you can't. Public safety is not always pretty, but we have to provide public safety at whatever point we are. Now let's talk about the overlap with community organizations. We do overlap with those. Now the city's job and the community's job are different. Let's define the roles. Our job is public safety, and our job is administering federal funds to help alleviate problems or mitigate problems.
Now, definition-wise, is that laid out in the city charter, or is that more of a government philosophy that you take on yourself in terms of, I believe government's main job is public safety, or is that somewhere defined somewhere, if that makes sense?
So we have 3 new council members, and in February, they will go to a new officials institute mandated by the state of Oklahoma. New officials have so long to go to this new deal. You learn about the open records lack, you learn this, that, and the other, and one of the things you learn, poverty is not a municipal function, okay? Different organizations have different roles. The federal government has a role, or let's just take national defense. That's not our job here at the city level, right? Okay. The state has a role, counties have a role, schools have a role. Our role is not the same role as the schools, but we all have to deal with public safety. Now, in our homeless action plan, we're defining, we're going to be presenting an update, right? And in it, we're going to put a chart that shows whose role it is. Here's what our role is not. I wrote this down so I wouldn't forget. We're not responsible for housing. It's not the municipal job to house people. That's a federal role. Money's given to the states and money's given to municipalities to deal with some of that. We get something less than $1 million, I think. Not enough to take care of everybody, right? It is not our responsibility to deal with mental health. That's why we have a state department of mental health. And it's not our job to deal with substance abuse rehabilitation. That's why we have the State Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse. Okay, so different people have different roles, different government entities have different roles. Our primary job is public safety and administering those funds in the things that we're talking about here.
Now, this might be more of a philosophy type of question, but what happens when, let's say, the federal government doesn't do their job? And for instance, we're in that sort of situation now with the government shutdown. And so I don't know if it's affecting the cities, grants, what have you. But let's say somebody on council doesn't believe the federal government is doing the necessary job to provide maybe, say, housing or what have you. Should council pick that slack up? Or is it a point where maybe council doesn't have the means to pick up the slack with the state doesn't do it or the federal government?
Yeah, I can't imagine a municipality having having the money to do the federal government's job.
Even in their own little municipality.
Now let's talk about homelessness and the federal government.
Yeah.
The issue is a federal problem. It's a national problem, right? And when any community does something, they attract or deflect homeless. We're not going to solve homelessness here. All we can hope to do with the money we get is make a difference in the life of our own citizens. Does that make sense? Yeah. And that's what we have to focus on. Now, what we can do, and I'm not going to address the government shutdown part of this because that's going to be over soon, but what we can do is we can work with our state and federal legislators to make changes that will affect everybody. You and I can't solve the immigration issue. It's a federal problem. Housing's similar. It's a federal problem.
Last question on the government shutdown. I promise I won't push it. Are you worried at all about if it continues on? I know I've heard rumblings. Some people in the legislature I talked to think it might last until the first of the year. Is that going to hurt the city at all?
Well, I think it's already impacting the city and the community standing up, different organizations. I think our Rotary Club today is delivering food to the food bank. I saw where McMahon Foundation was making a sizable donation. There has been one resource fair at Fort Sill. It's my understanding the city and the chamber are doing one. I got asked last night, could they use the banquet hall? Absolutely. Let's do a resource fair. Let's try to find where we can take care of things. But it can't be the city's responsibility to take care of everything.
All right. So focusing back on the homeless action plan, what individuals or organizations outside the council were consulted with putting this together?
So that's a good question. We did have this before the Homeless Action Committee, and it went to the council. And as usual, not everybody necessarily disagrees. Some people may disagree with a point, but agree with the other things. And that's usually the way it is. There's one or two things they don't agree with. But in general, it got agreement and it passed the council unanimous.
I really want to focus on ChatGPT, if you don't mind. Artificial intelligence, ChatGPT. You mentioned how the most recent part was kind of ChatGPT AI was used to come up with some of those points. Walk me through that decision. Have you guys been using AI recently with policy? Is this kind of the first? I know, I forgot who it was, forgive me, on the council not too long ago talked about using AI for something. I forgot what it was, but walk us through this decision.
But I would say the way that we use artificial intelligence is for a smart data source in the room as you're having a conversation. And so we ask it questions. And so someone got the idea of, let's ask artificial intelligence how we can address homelessness in Lawton, Fort Sill without increasing homelessness, okay? That's been a big deal of mine from the beginning is our solutions can't increase homelessness. because it's clear the people that do things, mostly driven by compassion, um, attract more homeless. And so it spit out this list. Now, what's never been discussed, and we haven't really looked at, is a breakdown of how to spend the money, the federal money. But what we did address, and the council gave me direction to go ahead and put in the homeless action plan, was to not allow the money that we allocate to be spent on anyone but citizens, people that can prove their tie to Lawton Fort Sill, and to not expand shelter space. Those are the two things that we took from that AI deal. Now, let's talk about chat. Chat's just a smart person that has a lot more data in their head than you and I do. And it can spit stuff out and give you ideas. For the first time, an elected official can get a bright idea and have an ordinance printed. But what do you do with that ordinance? You have to give it to legal to let them go through it and clean it up and say, well, that's not going to work or whatever, or whatever. And it's not unlike our legal department to disagree with something Chat said. So we're not writing legal documents. Well, we may draft legal documents, but we're not, the end result is not a chat item. Does that make sense?
No, it does. And so you're not too worried about ChatGPT maybe hallucinating like it does sometimes.
Well, we have people built in the system that look at that beforehand. And as a matter of fact, they run it through other AI. We have what we call Westlaw artificial intelligence, which is more law focused, right? And so we run things through there as well as the attorney. Now, I don't run things through, but the legal department does. And they're always checking it on based upon their own, the old fashioned way.
What do you say to people that might think using computer like AI takes the human nature out of it in terms of compassion and stuff like that? What do you say to complaints like that?
Well, I don't know what to say. I think compassion is a human level thing. And I think what we're doing, I don't see the lack of compassion. Personally, I think, and this is in the homeless action plan, we empower, we don't enable. And I don't think enabling is compassion. I think it's misplaced compassion. So when you enable people and you just give and give and give, you just grow and grow and grow the problem. You have to do things to encourage their own self-responsibility. And that's one thing I will point out about the Salvation Army program. They get them in there, and the first thing they do is they start making them keep their area clean. And that's the way they start going, because they're not going to be able to keep a Section 8 house or a rental property. If they can't keep it clean, they'll be kicked out. So you have to do everything you can to create opportunity to bring your personal responsibility up. Now, what do we do with the people that refuse the help that's available? What do we do with the people that refuse the help that's available? That's the ones that we cannot tolerate just because you're on the street, that you break a law or you invade our neighborhoods or you don't sign up as a sexual offender if you are one, etc.
This plan includes, and correct me if I'm wrong, but does it include a 24/7 response team to patrol high-risk areas?
We haven't actually got that put together, and we may have mitigated the problem with the camping ordinance.
Okay.
And the decline in population, we may have mitigated that problem.
The need for it.
Yeah, we haven't got all of those things implemented like we'd hoped.
What would that have looked like in your view? Do you want to go into just what would that have looked like?
So
Would it be
I can tell you
volunteers?
what the discussions have been.
Please do.
The discussions aren't finished product,
course.
and you bounce lots of ideas out there. But it was probably going to be a few people from Department of Safe and Clean Neighborhoods, code enforcement, and a couple of police officers. And they would, at different times, different people would be on duty, but they would be able to go address those challenges.
Governor Stitt praised your approach recently in Lawton. I don't know if you saw it. And he's been conducting Operation Safe in Tulsa. I believe it's coming to Oklahoma City now. Do you see that as a successful model? Do you see the need for that maybe here in Lawton? Or do you think the policies you guys have put into place so far has mitigated anything like Operation Safe here?
Well, what is Operation Safe doing? It's going to where people are camping on state property, which is against the law, and it's enforcing the law. That's all I see. They offer them a ride to a shelter. They may offer them a ride to mental health treatment as well. I'm not sure, but they are enforcing the law. Illegal camping on state property, and they're enforcing the law, right? Now, I can't find homeless camping right now. We have one place that's exempt from our homeless camping deal, and that's the one lot across from the Salvation Army, if you're involved in that program, right? I can't find people camping. And if people are camping in the city limits, they need to call it into dispatch. So what am I saying? There's no need for the governor to come down with what's the name of this program?
Operation Safe, I believe.
Operation Safe. There's no reason for him to come to Lawton Fort Sill. We don't have camping. Mm-hmm. If we have it, we address it. If we see it.
Closing down on this interview now, looking back, would you do anything differently in developing or implementing this plan, or you're happy with how?
Okay, I'd implemented this plan 7 years ago when I came into office. But it takes a while to get the knowledge and for things to happen that get you to think in a way that gets you to where you need to be.
What do you want people to understand about your approach to homelessness or just to city council that might not come through in the coverage of it?
My approach defines the roles of different branches of government and of the community. It is what the city's role is and what the city's role is not. It is not, you have a PhD in this. You know that citizens go to the closest level and the person that had the easiest access. Who is that? This is the city. It's not unnatural for people to think that the city's supposed to take care of all their problems. But all of their problems are not our role. And our role is not housing. Our role is not mental health treatment. And our role is not substance abuse rehab. So what's the main thing about all this? We're defining the roles and we're putting measures in place that require everybody to follow the law and make it easier for us to enforce. The camping ordinance was to make it easier for us to enforce instead of having to find an absentee owner and get a permission slip.
I think that does it. Mayor Booker, thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.